For wrestling diehards only, this is the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast, your weekly one-stop shop for all things wrestling in the great state of Idaho. Thanks for joining us. We are coming at you live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. My name is Brandon Bainey. I'm just the host. I'm the guy that defers to our experts. Let's bring in our first expert tonight, Al Fontes. Al, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. You know, I'm inside where it's warm. We've had a little cold streak here recently. School's been canceled most places the first 2 days of the week, so it's been crazy over here in East Idaho. Yeah,
we've seen some cold, some ice, but it hasn't snowed very much up, where we're at. So no canceling school yet. But I can see. I heard some of the teams coming to the Red Halverson couldn't make it because of the snow.
Yeah, over where you're at in the banana belt, we call it, over there in the Treasure Valley. Let's also bring in, joining us tonight, Jacob back after a week off. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Congratulations on the newborn as well.
Thank you. He's winning right now, but we're putting up a fight.
Always, no doubt. Big thanks to everybody joining us in the chat tonight as well. Brian Zollinger usually hops on with us. He was actually officiating tonight. He was officiating the duel. He said he was going to try and sneak in if he can, and we'll keep an eye out for him. But for now, it's just going to be the three of us and, of course, everybody in the chat. And this is where we want to hear your input. We want to hear your questions, your shout-outs. We want you, the fans, to kind of drive the conversation. So before we get hopping in the chat real quick, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, however you're consuming this tonight, if you could hit the like button or the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and then share this as well. Share it, retweet it. Let everybody know. It helps with all of that social media algorithm stuff that I don't understand. All I know is the more people that like it and share it, the easier it is for everybody else to find it later on, because we have a lot of people that go back and watch it on the replay. People can't always join us live. We've already got a comment tonight. Bridget says, "Hi, Jacob. Congrats on the baby."
Thank you.
Yeah. I had a lot of that last time.
Tough as Ryder one day. That's a goal.
Yes. If even 1/10 of Ryder, you're still going to have pretty good, right? For sure. Yes, you had a lot of well-wishers last week in the chat, Jacob. And, of course, you were in the chat as well. You were able to kind of still be part of the discussion, even though you weren't on camera. So everybody watching tonight, let us know where you're at, who you're supporting, what you're going to be up to, and we'll throw your questions up on the screen. As always, we start, though, with the best thing that we saw from the past week. Jacob, I'll go to you first. Well, what was the best thing you saw from the last week in wrestling?
I think Caldwell. They might not have won North Idaho, but dang, they wrestled well. They're way better than I thought. So them, and then go individual. Barnhart locking up a cradle, third period, pinning two-time champ Brunson. North Idaho is crazy. I watched a lot of North Idaho stuff since it was on Flow, so that was the best thing I saw probably all weekend.
No doubt. Yeah, I know Amy Scott from Buell was talking about on a separate post a little bit about Caldwell, being pretty sneaky and underrated 4A team for sure. So we got a lot of people here in the chat tonight. JJ, of course, tuning in from Post Falls. We've got Jaleesa and Luke watching from Jerome. Hey, welcome to the chat. Jason is in Weiser, and we've got Zach up in Moscow. So we're all over, guys, and that's the point. We want to reach all the wrestling fans statewide. Al, what was the best thing you saw from the last week?
So at the Red Halverson, I want to give a shout out to Minico. They won the team title this year over Nampa. It was really close. They had one champ and about 11 placers overall. Pretty competitive, solid tournament. Individually, a shout out to at 138, which was one of the toughest weights there. Of the sixth placer, everyone in that weight group was a returning state placer, along with the kid from Oregon from LeGrand, who was a returning state champ. But to Manuel Valdez of Bishop Kelly, He wrestled tough, looked solid that tournament, won a very tough tournament because there was a few kids in there that had won early that were returning state placers but didn't place because they got beat in the consos. So a very highly competitive weight group. So Manuel Valdez.
Yeah, that was that was a loaded weight class for sure. We've got in the chat here a couple of people. David and Michaela, of course, representing Minico. Kayla is here from Blackfoot tonight. Gotta love the Broncos. The green and black. It's one of my favorite color schemes of all the teams around the state of Idaho, the Blackfoot Broncos. Zach says the best thing he saw last week was coming home to Pocatello from reffing the duel. Oh, no, he's coming home from Pocatello right now from reffing the duel in Grace. Thanks for the entertainment on the drive home. Hey, Zach, first of all, thanks for joining us. And remember, both hands on the wheel, all right? Yeah, we don't want you distracted driving. Travis is watching tonight from Richland, Washington. How about that? We've got an out-of-stater.
Tri-Cities.
Yes. Can you name the other two? Let's ask Al. Let's quiz Al. Al, can you name the Tri-Cities in Washington? Richland's one of them. Do you know the other two?
No, I do not.
You've got Pasco. and Kennewick.
Yep.
I had to go to Kennewick. My younger brother made regional all-stars baseball one year, and it was in Kennewick. So we had a good time over there for sure. Okay, Paul Kingsbury, our boss, he's watching tonight from Cuna, representing the Cavemen. Okay, and we've got our first kind of question of the night as well, guys, from Preston the Champ. He says, how about that 160 weight class, Jacob?
At Minico, 4A, 5A,
I don't know. Preston, you want to elaborate? Is there a specific classification? We can talk 160s in general too, but let's cover both. Let's do 5A and 4A.
Got me off guard already. I was trying to pull up everything that I had.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Al was it, Red Halverson.
So I can tell you, Red Halverson, Jonathan Siemens from Nampa won the tournament. He beat Paxton Twist of Minico, who was number 1 in the 4A. He's number 2. We got some up-and-coming kids. Calvin Fillmore from Rocky Mountain. He's a senior. Went to state last year along with Joseph Hippler from Bishop Kelly. 2 solid kids that are going to be contenders to place at state. Bishop Kelly also had another kid place that weight, Saya Thompson. And then a kid named Ben Hill from Shelley. So it was a competitive weight. We're seeing a lot of new faces that potentially can medal this year.
Is Saya going up to 60? Is that going?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Come on now.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, come on.
I know. Well, I heard that was a wrestle off. So I said there's a probability it could happen, but I haven't heard anything on the contrary.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
Blackfoot kid's back, right? Guerrero from Blackfoot. He's in the mix now. Kind of back from injury a little bit. I think he was a little beat up. He'll be tough. I don't think he got a wrestle state tournament last year. Got sick.
Yeah.
Could definitely be wrong. Could have been 2 years ago, but I'm pretty sure last year he couldn't wrestle. So he's at least back this year.
Yep, for sure. Okay, I also wanted to touch on the best thing I saw from the past week. This is a guy that is very acclaimed, kind of falls through the cracks sometimes, but he came out and won at 132 at Red Halverson. That's Carson Exford of Nampa. He ended up beating Anthony Williams of Bonneville in the finals. And I just wanted to give Carson Exford of Nampa a little shout out, little love, because man, he's pretty awesome to watch. So that's the best thing I saw from this past week. Chris Hunt says 38 at Minico was crazy deep. Al, you were talking about that a little bit, and you're my data guy. You're always crunching the numbers, and you always come well prepared with some enlightening math for us. What did you find this week as you were doing your research?
So of the top 10 teams, 7 of them were ranked in their respective divisions at state. Plus you had LeGrand, who took 3rd, and all 8 of their placers are ranked in their 4A division in Oregon. Very competitive team. Of all the individual champs, 9 of them came from the 5A division, 6 came from the 4A. And of the 15, 8 were ranked number 1 in the respective division, whereas 6 were ranked number 2, and then we had one kid ranked number 3 in his division. If we go break it down to of the 90 placers, once again, when you go by grades, seniors, juniors, sophomore, it was about the same. About 40% were seniors, juniors about just over a third, and then the remaining 25% was freshmen, sophomores. And, once again, LeGrand had 8 of those placers. Of the placers, 42 were returning state placers from the 4 different divisions. And of the 4 divisions, the 4A had 43% of those placers. Several state qualifiers placed, 24. All-Americans, we had 11 that either placed at Fargo, folk style nationals, preseason nationals. Of the kids ranked in the state, 70 were ranked in their state. And like we said, 138s was a solid weight, along with 120s had 6 returning state placers, as well as 220s was a pretty competitive weight too. 5 of the placers were returning medalists from their respective division. So overall, a solid tournament.
Yeah, that's couldn't have said it any better myself. A solid tournament for sure. All right, here's Troy Hobbs, my man from South Fremont. What are you guys' thoughts? Can anybody beat Fulmer this year? Me, I don't think so. Ha ha ha. And that is the great Teton Timberwolf, Riker Fulmer at 170. What do you think, Jacob?
No chance. Not 3A. I mean, you got to wrestle and you got to show up and things happen, but no way. I would like to see him wrestle Laguna, Hudson Rogers, those guys. That'd be great to watch. But 3A, no way.
Tournament of Champions, I'm telling you.
Yep.
All-star duels, we got to get something going there for sure. Zach Phelps talking about Red Halverson at Minico. 220 at Minico was fire. Al, do you concur?
Yeah, I mean, you had 5 of the 6 placers. The top 5 were all returning state placers, whereas Eli Adderton of Highland was a returning state champion. You had Vale from Minico, state champion. Preston Colvin from Skyline is a returning finalist, 2-time placer. And then Dylan Adderton of Snake River, and then Cash Weeks, both placed in their divisions as well. So yeah. Solid weight.
Definitely. Jacob, you were talking about a little earlier about Blackfoot kind of getting back to health. We know Buell has been affected by injuries the last several weeks. Brig Blake wants to know any injuries this week that might matter at state, and maybe those in the chat can maybe enlighten us a little bit too. I didn't hear of anything super major, but Al, you were also keeping an eye on things. Any big injuries?
Nothing significant. I mean, kids are banged up. There may be some injuries, but I haven't heard anything that's basically saying they're not going to compete at the district or try to make it to the state. I haven't heard anything like that, like out for the season.
Just going like some of it. Snake River's heavyweight, a little slow, hasn't wrestled in a while. Some with probably his leg, I think. I think one of the older Brunson, a little hurt, a little banged up, but nothing to be out for the year. There's a couple of those, like tougher kids that maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we had some kids that medical forfeit out at the tournament that may have placed 6. I don't want to comment because I don't have enough information to say for sure what it is. So they're all tough kids. They'll get through it.
Yeah. So David and Michaela from Minico say that they were Cooper Stimson broke his elbow. Ugh, I hate to hear that. That's so disappointing. But it comes with the territory sometimes. So, okay, we've also got in here Amy Scott, our great Buell fan. Younger. Riley is younger. So
how many minutes? My bad.
Right.
I said big.
Yes.
Size.
Yeah, right. Talking size, not age. Jed says South Fremont would have loved for Eli Anderton to beat Vale at the Tiger Grizz. Could have really done us a solid there. Yeah, well, that's what makes wrestling so great, right? You never know how it's going to shake out. But Also, we were exactly. We were talking about wanting to see Fulmer maybe match up with Laguna. Idaho Wrestling News says the IdahoSports.com Tournament of Champions. Let's make it happen. Yeah, we would love to do it. We got to clear a lot of red tape though with the state to get that off and running. So a lot of red tape we got to clear for sure.
Paul's in the chat. Maybe we could. He's
right.
Right. He can push it.
I'll put that on his plate. He can
Perfect.
spearhead that effort for sure.
So I also got a chance to see 145's DJ Nieder, Idaho Falls, a sophomore. He's the real deal. Solid kid. He pretty much handled the kid from Snake River who took fourth in the state, Gary Hunter. He's solid. So he will definitely be a force to be reckoned with in the years to come if he continues on that trajectory.
Yeah, and we've talked
another solid kid too. Jaden Skellinger is really, he's primarily been freestyle and Greco all these years. He's done some collegiate style, but now this is his first year. He's really starting to adapt to the style, looking solid, and he pretty much dominated the competition.
Yeah, and we've talked about this all year long, Al, about the underclassmen that are coming in, right? Freshmen and sophomores that are really stepping up and competing well at such a young age. And again, that's just a testament to all of the club work they're putting in, and even up through the middle school ranks. They're coming to high school, Al, in other sports like football and maybe, baseball and things like that, there is a little bit of an adjustment period and a learning curve, but in wrestling, it seems like these guys and gals are stepping in from day one and more than holding their own.
Yeah, if we look back when I competed back in the 70s and early, the 80s, we had to use a VHS tape that someone gave us to look about, watch a wrestler's technique, or, there was no YouTube, there was none of this, social media today. You have access to every wrestler on the face of the planet, the best ones, and learn just at one keystroke away. So that's helping a great deal too. It's just the source of information and technique is being spread throughout the world, and that's valuable.
It was 2 a.m. last night. I was watching live wrestling in Europe.
Yeah.
I was up.
Yeah,
so,
I was watching the Ivan Yergin in Krasnoyar, Siberia, that tournament. You see the match with Sadakov?
Yep.
Oh, just solid wrestling.
So, now all these kids you can be 8 years old and watch at any moment. You can sit on your phone. They all probably have phones at this rate. Some 8, 9, 10-year-olds have their phone, social media, Flow, Twitter, all that, Instagram, everything. It's easy. So it's almost a break now, some of these underclassmen, like high school.
Yeah,
yep.
and that helps engage everyone with wrestling at a young age as well, and get them interested and get the flame lit, so to speak, with the younger age group as well. So yeah, I always love talking about the underclassmen, and because we talk about all of these great athletes that have a chance at the very rare 4 state titles in all 4 years club. Well, you don't get there without starting right away at that freshman sophomore level. So that'll be fun. That'll be a state storyline, of course, is to see, which members of the 4-time champion club can get there and join the ever-growing list. Okay, so let's talk about there was some other competitions as well, including a pretty big one up north, the North Idaho Rumble. Al, did you get a chance to dissect any of the results from up north there?
No, I did not. As the years go by, I'll get more and more privy to what tournaments are what through the years. So, I was at Red Halverson, and our girls were at the tournament in Burley. So was where my focus was. So no, I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Really all you need to know is Post Falls got 13 guys into the semifinals. That's just that's just crazy, isn't it? Jacob, did you have a chance to break anything down from the North Idaho Rumble?
I think I watched the majority, especially finals. I watched. They stream it live, so Post Falls is their twos might actually give Meridian a lot of trouble. Before in the beginning of the year, it was, it's Meridian, maybe Post Falls. As it goes, they got some pretty tough guys as seconds that, they're not even scoring points yet. Post Falls won that tournament easily. They're not even scoring points. But
yeah,
Caldwell looked great. I mean, even Buell. I think Buell was down. I don't know. Hopefully Amy or Fred, somebody could tell me exactly. But I think 4 of their starters didn't even wrestle, at least that I know of. And they still were, they're still as strong as ever. So,
yes.
there's some good stuff that happened up there.
Yeah, Post Falls wins. They have won. So there's 13 times there's been a North Idaho Rumble. This was the 13th annual. Post Falls has won 11 of the 13 in the history of the event. They take first again. Taking second was Caldwell, as you said, Jacob. I thought they were really impressive, and Buell ended up taking third. In terms of like individual results, I thought, Grayson Williams of American Falls getting a win at 138 was pretty good.
Pinned his way, right?
Yeah. He pinned a kid from Lake City, Blaine Leonard. I also thought a pretty exciting one was Matthias McLean from Priest River getting to the finals against Trevor Miller. He's going to play football for the University of Idaho. And he's a guy that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit this year. So it was kind of cool to see Matthias McLean from Priest River get to the finals against Trevor Miller from Post Falls.
Yeah. Well,
yep.
There's a lot of tough matches. I mean, Draven Johns beating Orr in the semis. That was a good one. Like, really, really good one. I think they're 1-1 now. So
yeah.
There's some good stuff.
Definitely. Okay, so here's we got some more comments coming through into the chat here. Sam says Post Falls had 10 in the finals. Bethany says yes, 10 into the finals for Post Falls. Jed says Post Falls number 2 big guys are going to score a ton of points at State, and we talked about that. They and Meridian are kind of headed for this showdown at State. Amy says Buell was down 6 starters up there in North Idaho and still delivered a pretty great performance. So that was pretty good.
2 defending state champs.
Yeah.
2 defending state champs. A couple other guys that are, still a good showing.
Yep. That's tough for sure. Alfonso, he's always quick with the quips. He says, no smart comments tonight. Just letting you know I'm supporting. Hey, thanks, Alfonso. You're one of the diehards here for sure. Okay. Bugsy's got a couple of interesting comments here. Bugsy says Tri-State and Raleigh Lane still the 2 toughest tournaments. I would agree with that. I'm not going to now, which one is more difficult between those two? I think it's Raleigh Lane, right? I don't know. Tri-State's good, but
I'd have to look at the data and just do an analysis on it. But I know Tri-State is tough, so I think they're right in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it's splitting hairs essentially. And Bugsy says, Kayla says Tiger Grizz was a fun one. Yes, Tiger Grizz is also very good. Bugsy says he wants to see a 32-man, 1-division state tournament, top 8 place. Jacob, you're nodding your head. What do you think of this idea?
If California can do it, we can do it.
So I came from that system, and I can tell you, having 980 high schools in one state division takes 3 or 4 qualifiers to get state. By the time you get to state, the first round could be against 2 All-Americans. I mean, right away. It is Division I type wrestling. So, it would be great. I know some of the weights, we'd see tough matches in round 1 or 2 if we did that. Especially at
awesome,
120s, 126, 138.
Yeah, Al,
and run it.
Al, can you explain that a little bit, how California does it? Because there's so many schools and so many competitors.
Yeah, there's well over 900 high schools throughout the whole state. There's 10 sections. The southern section is the largest down in the SoCal, just north of San Diego, just south of Bakersfield. They have close to 400 and something high schools. So for that division alone, they have to go through their league, which is a district. They have to go to their CIF, which is the divisional. It's a 40-man bracket. Then all the divisions go to a master's meet, which is a 40-man bracket. Then you got to go to state. That's a 40-man bracket. So that's the largest, but a majority of them have to go through a league, subsection, masters, and state. So it's a grind just to get to the state tournament. You're always worried about kids getting injured. But by the time you get to the state tournament, their average kid would be like us taking the top 8, top 4 divisions in Idaho, wrestle them, take the top 8 from that. That would be your average kid in California state tournament. Then you got a layer above that, which is your elite guys like Stephen Abbas or someone of that level, Eric Guerrero's, or Figueroa, who's at Arizona State. You have that next layer above that. So that's what it's like there.
Yeah. Speaking of a grind, Bugsy says part of Tri-State being tough is the grind of the environment of the small gym, not a huge building with plenty of space. Jacob, can you talk about that a little bit? The venue where you're at. What do you prefer? Do you like something a little bigger? You like the bandbox where everybody's on top of you?
I mean, personally, for me, I'd rather be able to spread out, get comfortable. But I mean, as a fan, it's probably a little better in tight, close, personal.
Yeah,
everybody's there.
Yeah,
way better that way for a fan. But coaching, competing, way easier to keep everything kind of under control, spread out, relax, have your spot, get a nap, all that.
So this is just my opinion. The one division state tournament is great, but so many great wrestlers never medal. I do like the divisions, gives more kids the opportunity to grow and place at state. But at the end of the day, the best kids will be recognized by the college. Everyone in the division 1, 2, and 3 or whatever knows where the best kids are. These are the kids going to Fargo. They're going to Super 32. They're going to those high-level terms. They know who the best kids are. So I like the divisions, to be honest with you. But as a fan, it's great to see the one division.
Yeah, I think it would just be an add-on. Everybody would still be recognized for winning their respective classification, and then this would be all right. Let's really figure out who the top dog is. Bugsy says, "Amen" from the back row. I think he's talking to you, Jacob, talking about wanting to be a little more spread out and not so congested for sure. Okay, Zach has a question. Is 120 the deepest weight across all divisions? We talked about this a couple weeks ago at Raleigh. We talked about 120 at Raleigh Lane Owl was by far the most difficult, and we were even missing a couple of guys that were competing out of state that week, right?
Yeah, it's what I mean, Jacob. You look at this. You got some of the guys. These are guys ranked nationally. Like 2 or 3 guys are ranked nationally in that weight. Well, you got Coulter Burton. You got Mauger. You got Diedrich Navarro. I mean, those are all guys going D1. That's just alone would make that weight tough if it's all together. Yeah, it's one of the toughest.
You take Coulter going to Oklahoma State, Mauger going to Mizzou, Diedrich going to Northwestern, but then you add Martino beat Burton, but then my nephew Talon majored Diedrich, and then Diedrich beat, last week I read Halverson in the finals. Tucker Bowen's 2-time finalist, Fargo All-American. Like, as a whole, 120 by far.
And that was a great weight too, between Martino and Bowen. It was just great. It was great competition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Talenek from Thunder, Diedrich Navarro from Nampa, Mac Mauger from Blackfoot. You talk about at the 3A. Yeah, yes, Packer from South Fremont, Coulter Burton. This is by far the deepest weight class, regardless of classification and considering all of the classifications. Even Baumforth from Shelley, he's a guy we've been talking about.
He has wins in there. He's beat 2 of those guys that are mentioned.
Yes, and Cooper Stimson of Minico was at 120, and of course we heard the awful news that he's done for the season now with the broken elbow. And then even like when you look at the 2A guys that are competing, you've got some Carson Hill from North Fremont is pretty good. Gage Vasquez from Firth is an incredible athlete. Tucker Bowen, Soda, right?
Yeah, he looks solid though. Him and Navarro had a good match in the finals at 120.
That's one of my guys, so I was watching close.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just
Everybody, Coy Orr, his brother wrestles Division One. Like,
yeah, there's
crazy.
just no shortage of talent at 120 for sure. So, okay. Oh, geez, Bugsy now really going. Okay, so Bugsy had the original idea of a 32-man bracket, top 8 place. He says now, what do you think about a 64-man bracket, 4 combined divisions for a 1-division state tournament? That way kids can still compete. He says it sucks when there's a 2A state champ and someone says, yeah, but it's 2A. 2A does get dismissed a lot. It is what it is. There's good competition at 120 across the board in all divisions for sure. Jacob, what do you think? 64-man bracket. That's taking it up a level.
Use of our 3-day state tournament.
Yeah, three-day tournament for sure. Yep.
Do 3-day tournament.
So the way you would do it, you would go to you would have your district tournament. Your per se divisional state tournament would be your sectional. Then you would send go to state from there. That's how they can do it. 3 weeks. Crazy.
Probably never gonna happen, but
nope.
I mean,
okay.
I'll drink the water.
Hey, I'm all for it. I have no comparison because I'm like Al. I'm kind of a newbie to Idaho, so I'm all for it. We're those darn out-of-staters that are coming and changing everything, Al.
As a coach, I like the divisional state tournament.
Okay.
Yeah, the 1 division is very stressful.
Yes. Okay. Zach has a comment here. Speaking of arenas, venues, and 3-day tournaments, not to beat a dead horse from previous episodes, but we really got to get state into the Kibbe Dome so we don't have to do this 3-day business. More than enough space at the Kibbe Dome. I had an interesting conversation with one of our North Idaho broadcasters, Ryan Skaggs. He and I do the North Idaho Prepcast every week where we talk about just North Idaho sports. And he's got a strong wrestling background. He told me that it's not likely to come back to the Kibbe Dome anytime soon because they do a big jazz festival, I guess, right around that time of year. And so that's always the university's priority, is making sure they've got enough infrastructure to handle this jazz fest that takes place every year. So he told me that's why wrestling probably and Zach maybe knows more about that living in Moscow, but that's one of the big things I heard was that there's like a jazz festival that always happens that time of year, and that's what U of I is. Oh, and Zach just said Jazz Fest moved to April. Okay, so no excuses now. No excuses. We can go back to Moscow for sure. Okay, Jeremy says lots of 2A kids getting scholarships these days. Maybe not D1, but still good. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of good wrestlers at the 2A level. And again, it is kind of that out of sight, out of mind. We're really 5A, 4A, 3A focused. And there's a lot of good kids from 2A that fall through the cracks. Let's give love to one 2A wrestler here. Who's your favorite 2A wrestler, Jacob?
I'm going to go with, a year ago, I would have said Kyle Rice. That guy's pretty tough. But yeah. I can't pick him no more. Let's see. I'm going bias. I love me some Tucker Bowen. I see him a lot, so I'm going to go Tucker Bowen. Or Hans Newby, because he's going for the old 4-time.
That's who I was going to say was Hans Newby from Grace. Grace Grizzly is my favorite. Al, you don't get to see a lot of the 2A guys because you're coaching at Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, one kid that really impressed me, he was at 138. He beat one of the kids I coach, Hyatt Beck of Aberdeen. He is a solid kid. I mean, he's placed 6th and 3rd at the state tournament, currently ranked number 2 in the 2A. I'd keep an eye on that kid. He's solid. If I was a college coach, I'd be paying attention to him. He's got a lot of potential, real good build, solid wrestling for 138s.
Athletic.
Very athletic. Super. Tough to beat. He took 5th at Red Halverson. However, that was one of the toughest weights there. So he could have easily been in the finals.
Yeah, close semis, right? Like it from Oregon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about more questions coming through here in the chat. We've got RJ Frank wants to know, why did they decide to go to a 3-day state tournament It went to COVID affected it a little bit, right? We had to split it up, but when did that change officially happen, Jacob? When we went to 3 days?
I would assume because of girls.
Yeah.
I have no idea why it changed or when, what. Al probably knows way better about that than I do.
I would say it's logistics with the addition of girls. It's growing. I don't want to speak for them. I wasn't in that meeting, but I would say it's a time issue and just a number of boys and girls wrestling that's going to be taking place is going to require that. We'd have to go to a bigger arena if we're going to go 2 days, or run it like we did the Raleigh Lane, where it's fluid, all the divisions going at the same time.
Yep.
On 15, 16 mats.
Continuing our two-way conversation, Jeremy Shaw. I think I know there's some Shaws in New Plymouth. Jeremy, you tell me if you're from New Plymouth. I think you are. Looking forward to seeing Beckett State. Go Jacob Shaw. Okay, duh. I should have just finished reading the comment. Okay.
And Caleb, probably other son, right?
Yes. And Bugsy says, Wallace Durfee from Declo making noise. The Declo Hornet. So that's another 2A guy there. Bridget says she thought it was a Ford Center issue, the Idaho Center in Nampa, and that's why we had to go to 3 days. Maybe not enough room. I don't know. Tough to say. Jeremy says yes, he's Caleb and Jacob's dad. So there you go. Okay, we're getting more questions in here. Alfonso asked a question. Pick one guaranteed champ in each division. Who do you pick? Al, I'll let you go first.
Jaden Skellinger, 152s in the 4A. Bishop Kelly.
Jacob, you got one?
Hobbs.
That's what I was going to say. You stole mine. Okay. This is why I should go first.
Yeah, you're the man with the mic. You got to get it.
That's right. I will say, man, I gotta go with one guy. I'll go with my guy from Lewiston, Hoyt Haas at 126, 5A. That's what I'm gonna say. I feel pretty good about that. So there you go, Alfonso. Go ahead.
Mara, Beidelman, Hobbs, Hans Newby.
Okay, there we go. Jacob's giving us a little bonus content here. Daniel wants to know, what is the most open weight class heading into state without a clear podium line? What kids look like they could break through and find themselves on top? Jacob, is there one where you're just like, man, I have no idea who's going to come out of this thing?
Maybe 5A 195.
That's a good one.
There, yeah. Most 98s too, like, because they're young freshmen. Some are small. You don't really know. I don't know. I'm gonna go 5A and 195 just because that one's tough.
Al?
Question.
Yeah, I'll agree with them. 98s, maybe 95s. I mean, even at Red Halverson, of all the freshmen that placed, 6 of the 9 were at 98s. So they're all ranked in their state, but it can go either way for a lot of these weights.
Yeah, I was
no clear cut kid yet.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I was kind of looking at 4A 170. There's a lot of good guys in that weight class, Kyson Anderson from Minico, Sorensen from Bonneville, Zollinger from Skyline. I don't know. It seems like a pretty good one to me, but that's what I'd go.
There's a couple. I mean, maybe
Zollinger did beat Anderson of Minico at Red Halverson for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good guys in that weight class, I feel like. Okay. We've got people in the chat here answering the questions too. Mac Mauger, that's kind of a guaranteed. I don't know. We talked about that weight class being tough. Troy Hobbs says Fulmer from Teton, 170. Yeah, we talked about him earlier. Oh, and Bugsy says Mauger at 126. No, Mauger at 120. See, there's some debate over where Mauger's going to be at eventually.
Definitely 120.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Bethany and Diane Bethany says 5A 145s she thinks is pretty wide open.
Yeah, I think Mara's one of the top candidates there. He'll be tough to beat.
No, is Mara going 52 though?
Good question.
I think he's been up because it's like Cody Rich, the Garrett kid from Mountain View, Damian Hamilton, my guy. I haven't seen him in the chat. His dad. So
Yeah,
we're missing him.
You've got Giuseppe Guerra from Mountain View,
Yep.
possibly there at 145 as well. Bethany says Mara's at the 52s. Yep, I agree with that. Troy Hobbs says his guaranteed. Banta 106. That's a pretty good pick there. And Chris Glasscock from South Fremont says 3A heavyweight is pretty open.
Yeah, if the Snake River heavyweights hurt, and the South kid beat him twice, pinned him. So don't really know at that point. I would have bet on Snake Rivers till season started a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. That was an interesting question for sure. Here's another good question. JJ up in Post Falls asks, you guys mentioned programs/clubs for respective high schools being huge to building their programs. Who's on y'all's radar? Jacob, so with clubs, you get kids from a lot of different schools, could be all at the same club, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they come from pretty much, I don't know. Like, so mine, I have Thunder Ridge, AF, Soda, Pokey, Highland. There's a bunch of schools that come, but if you're just going off of that, you probably just say Real Life. So that's Post Falls feeder, Lakeland area, Team Real Life. The West has it easy, not easy, but has it better with Chris Owens being over there. Levi Jones run a lot of stuff. Zollinger in East Idaho has been doing it for a long time. Twin Falls used to be Delchev, but now I don't know what they go by, but Staker. There's a lot that are helping. I think as a whole, the club stuff's really pushing it,
Yes. Al, you're nodding your head. I know you've got a lot of respect for Chris Owens and what he's done for Idaho wrestling, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of great coaches that don't get, that make a big difference, but he's leading the charge with what he does with Idaho USA Wrestling. So, he's doing a lot. What he does is a full-time job, 7 days a week.
Yep, no doubt. Jimmy Train joining the chat. He says in 3A, Fruitland is a big sleeper. We've been talking about Buell and South Fremont and American Falls. And where do you see Fruitland fitting into this 3A picture, Jacob?
I think they could go third. I think third, fourth, fifth, sixth is the race. Number one South. I watched your the Treasure Valley one.
Oh yeah,
with Scott Burton. Yeah, I watched it, and he was in agreement. It's pretty much South, unless Buell has a few things go their way. But South, Buell, Fruitland, Snake, American Falls, maybe. Like there's a lot that's gonna happen. Fruitland's tough though.
Yeah, for sure. So our listeners know we have regional podcasts we do every week for each area of the state: North Idaho, Treasure Valley, Magic Valley, East Idaho as well. You can find all of those on our website, IdahoSports.com. And yes, I was talking to Scott Burton on our Magic Valley Prepcast. He's also the athletic director at Jerome High School, and they hosted Buell and South Fremont in a little tri-meet last week, and he was pretty blown away by what he saw coming in, as a 4A guy, right? And so he had nothing but good things to say about both Buell and South Fremont for sure. So, yeah, that was a fun little try that got scheduled up there in Jerome last week. Jeremy says, hats off to any of these guys putting the club time in to get these little guys going. Now you're talking about all those unsung coaches that are really molding these outstanding wrestlers that then we're seeing at the high school level.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot, Chris is leading the charge, but there's a lot of coaches out there putting in that extra time year round and getting their kids to these competitions, letting their kids go to the best on best or whatever areas where these kids can train together in the off seasons, making a huge difference.
Yeah, and Bruce echoes those thoughts. Any high school team that is successful has a great club program. Chris Owens does an amazing job statewide. Yeah, nothing but agreement there across the board. Jimmy wants to talk about Fruitland a little more. He said Fruitland beat Buell at the Gooding duels without McKenzie and their second team. Lots of depth. So we know, South Fremont's got the dudes at the top. Can Fruitland's depth counteract that, Jacob?
The problem is South has all the champs and they have depth. They have a lot of guys that are going to score. Like, their twos are good. Fruitland's win over Buell, though. Like, did Jace Bauer wrestle? Did Riley Brunson wrestle? Did the Finley brothers wrestle? Like, there's a couple. Not saying that they didn't beat them or they wouldn't beat them with, but I'm saying, like, Buell's a hard one to think about because they have, 6 guys didn't compete up north and they took third. So
right.
They're it's weird like that. Fruitland is good, though. I think we talked about them 2 weeks ago. Maybe last week. Fruitland stuff.
Yep. Yes, Buell is the fly in the ointment in terms of trying to figure out what the landscape looks like because we haven't been able to see their complete unit for some time. Here's another question from Vincent Martino. Across all divisions, which team will have the most state champs? Al, you got an idea on this?
Post Falls and Meridians will be competing for that. Nampa has a solid group of kids that can win into 5A, so it's between them. 4A, I think BK can have up to 4 or 5 champions possibly. Beyond that, Jacob, the other divisions, what's your thoughts?
I think BK, like, total.
Yeah.
You have Castanedo, Scallinger, Martino, of course. That's Martino's dad. So
right.
He's got a point. South could have 106, Hobbs, Clark. They could have 3 or 4. Same way. I think 3 to 4 probably. There's a couple of teams with that. Meridian, Post Falls.
I'll give it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe Minico, but Minico more is depth. They just beat you at the death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah,
they won a tournament with depth. They won the Red Halverson because they had a lot of depth.
Yeah, I'll give you guys one from the 2A ranks. If things break right, I think maybe New Plymouth could possibly get, that 3 to 4 guys we're talking about. So I'll give New Plymouth a little love there as well. But man, Vincent, that's a great question. That's a really good question. Yeah, Bugsy says Minico possibly. Well, we'll see. I don't know. It'll be interesting for sure. And Bugsy agrees with me. New Plymouth is good. Yes.
I'll just pick one. Bishop Kelly.
No BK. Okay.
I'm starting to put stuff in stone. It's February 1st. I'll start marking it down.
Yes. Troy Hobbs from South Fremont talking about club wrestling. He says, we started the Upper Valley Aces when Sawyer was 7. That was 13 years ago, and you can see our success. If you stick with it, you will see results. Yeah, if you build it, they will come. It doesn't happen overnight, Al, though, right? It does take time, and you have to be patient with it. But if you do it right and you build it with a strong foundation, look at what's going on in South Fremont.
Yeah, once you build a culture, it's a culture. People want to be part of it.
Everybody sees like how good they are now, but they have no idea what they really had to go through to build that. I know Troy real well, and it took them a lot, but now that's who you want to be, South Fremont.
Yep, they're the gold standard for sure. Bugsy wants to give a shout out in 2A wrestling. Kellogg making some noise. We talk about Kellogg a lot. They're kind of, those North teams are always hard to get a gauge on, but to me, 2A is the most wide open in terms of the team race, right? It could be New Plymouth, it could be Ryrie, it could be Kellogg, it could be Declo, West Side. There's no shortage of really good 2A teams.
Malad.
Yeah, Malad. Yeah, I totally blanked on Malad, but yes, Malad also very good.
Kellogg's tough, though. Kellogg, they had a couple guys beat some really good 3A, 4A, 5A dudes at North Idaho. Like, they were a good 3A team, so it could be interesting. And they might get a lot of guys in the tournament. They have enough depth.
Yeah, I think at their divisional, they've got a really good, or their district, they've got a really good chance to get a lot of guys through into state for sure. Lynn Hammond, Post Falls Trojans. I was wondering where all my Post Fall, usually we got the Trojan fans on here making lots of noise tonight, but Zach from Moscow says, yeah, Kellogg should really shake it up at districts. Yeah, the big storyline is Kellogg moving down from 3A to 2A this year and being one of the bigger teams now in the 2A race. So, yeah, Zach, I agree. That's going to definitely make an impact on that 2A. Bugsy wants to know, is 2A, 1A going to be a 16-man bracket this year? Al, we just got the state tournament. Well, you did, and then you forwarded it to me. You got the state tournament schedule. Have you looked at it super closely yet?
No, I haven't looked at it in depth. Just basically the time schedule. That's mainly what I focused on. So as far as the bracket size, no, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard anything on the contrary.
Jacob, you think it is, though? Yeah. I think we're all in agreement that it probably is going to be for sure. Bethany says, okay, I'm Post Falls too. Okay, yeah, that's why I want everybody to say where they're from, because I'm still learning, names and where everyone's at.
So Brandon, can I pivot just a little bit to the girls?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, I want to, at the same time of Red Halverson, just down the road a bit, had the Big Mountain Girls Invitational in Burley. It's an up-and-coming tournament. They had, of the placers and all the weight groups, they had 22 that were ranked in the state. But just a shout-out to Canyon Ridge High School. I was talking to their coaches earlier, I think at Jaybird. They're starting to grow. They won the tournament, beating out number 2 ranked Columbia. Now, granted, I don't think Maria C. Fuentes was in that tournament, which would have made a difference. Columbia may have won it then, but then Rocky Mountain, which is up and coming, the girls took third. So, it was a good tournament overall. I just want to give a shout out to the people that run that tournament.
Yeah, and these girls tournaments are getting bigger and bigger. You talked about Jaybird, a couple weeks ago. It was the largest one ever, and yeah, it just keeps going and going. And yeah, we've got now we're getting some shout outs for the ladies. Bugsy, Alyssa Randalls from Coeur d'Alene is tough. Not afraid to wrestle tough boys either in the past. Al, yeah, think about how far we've come where girls had to compete against boys not that long ago. And now here we are with girls able to compete on their own. It's so exciting to see the standalone for sure.
Yeah, because the sport of wrestling is, according to what I was told, the sport of wrestling sanctioned where the boys and girls are sponsored. Girls can still wrestle the boys, but the day comes in the future, if it happens, if girls sanction a girls sport and boys are individual, then they won't be able to compete. But I think that's down the trough for ways. Yeah.
And we're getting more shout outs. A couple of Post Falls fans love Abby Piper. Zach Phelps says on the girls side, Kyler Scott from Century is a beast. Super tough freshman for sure. I'm a big fan of Jimenez from Caldwell. So there's a lot of good female wrestlers out there as well.
I think she's at Oklahoma City College competing. So yeah, she was solid. All-American, Pan-American champ, gold medalist.
Yep. And now Alyssa Randalls is kind of the big so, and we were talking about this too on a previous podcast about 4-time champs in the state of Idaho. Those championships that came before it was a sanctioned event should count, in my opinion. That should all count towards being recognized as a 4-time champion in girls wrestling for sure. So, all right, guys, we are approaching the 1 hour mark. I always say, we're going to keep it to 30 to 40 minutes, and then we get going in the chat. We get so many good questions, and so we went a little long again, but I love engaging with the fans, but we'll kind of end it here. Thanks to everybody that joined us tonight on the live stream. And again, as a reminder, if you would, before we duck out of here, for everyone that couldn't be here live tonight and want to come back and watch it again tomorrow or even the next day, if you could just hit that like button and share this, retweet it, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like and share it. That helps everybody else that comes back down the line. It helps everybody else see it a little easier. So big thanks for doing that for us. Al and Jacob, as always, thanks guys. We really appreciate it. All right. Well, big thanks to everybody for tuning in. We will be back again next week for another live edition of the Idaho Matt Chat Prepcast, 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for watching.